In this lesson, we are going to learn about absolute value. So absolute value is a number's distance from zero on a number line. The symbol for absolute value is two straight lines with the number in between them. Sometimes it looks like an 11, so you have to be very careful. They're usually longer, like this, and then the number that you're finding the absolute value of shows up inside the absolute value symbols. So, if I want you to find the absolute value of the number 2, it would look like this. I could use the number line to show this. So if I'm looking at the number 2, right here, I see that it is 2 spaces away from 0. So the absolute value of 2 equals 2. Now here's where the biggest mistake comes in. If I give you the absolute value, and I want you to find the absolute value of negative 2, if I look where negative 2 is, right here in the number line, I just want to know how far away it is from 0. This is also 2 spaces away from 0, like positive 2 was. So the absolute value of negative 2 is also 2. So one thing we need to remember about absolute value is that the solution is always positive. The biggest mistake people make is when they see the absolute value sign, they always want to write it as the opposite of the number. It is not the opposite of the number. It is always the positive value of the number. So what's going to happen is you're going to get problems where you have to find the absolute value before you can solve it. So it might say compare the absolute value of negative 6 and 3. So normally, negative 6 is smaller than 3 because it's a negative number and 3 is a positive number. But before you can actually compare these numbers, you have to find the absolute value. So the absolute value of negative 6 is 6 because it's 6 spaces away from 0. And you're comparing it to 3. That doesn't change because you weren't finding the absolute value. So 6 is actually greater than 3. It's bigger than 3, so the absolute value of 6 is greater than positive 3. The same thing is going to happen when you are ordering numbers. From least to greatest. So you might have these numbers listed. The absolute value of negative 3, the absolute value of 5, -3, -4, and then the absolute value of -4. So again, what you're going to want to do is rewrite all of these numbers so that they are not absolute values. So the absolute value of -3 is +3. The absolute value of +5 is +5. -3 is not an absolute value, so it's there. -4 is not an absolute value, so that stays the same. And the absolute value of -4 is +4. It's always the positive of the number. We could do a number line to help order these if we need to. Some of you at this point may not need to do this anymore. I see that my biggest number out of all of these is +5, and my smallest is -4. So I need to go all the way from 0 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I didn't need to go all the way to -5 because I only needed to go to 4, but it fit, so I do it. Now when I plot these numbers, I have +3, 5, -3, -4, and +4. So when I order these from least to greatest, my -4 is my least. And -3 is the next smallest. 3, which was the absolute value of 3. And then 4. And then 5. Okay. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions.